forget I'm here for a minute. That looks nice. I'd rather be there. All right, so it may or may not come as a shock to you that I had a little bit of a problem following the rules when I was in school. I did. I was the problem student. I was voted class clown 2 years in a row. Very proud. I never saw a day of recess in the 5th grade. I was in recess detention every single day. Me and the same 3 boys just sitting there every single day. And it was typical stuff, talking, chewing gum, putting glue on someone's chair. I did that, and I feel terrible. And I had a real problem with glue. I didn't, smell it or eat it, I promise. But I did make glue people in my desk. And what I mean by that is, imagine the metal desk, and you had those little indentations for where you're supposed to put your pencil. I would pour the liquid glue in little bits, and then I would draw them into people, and then they would dry, and then I would peel them off, and I'd color them and sell them for $0.10. And I'd make all the money back for my glue, and then some. I had a whole glue people empire. I learned nothing, but I, learned how to make a small business, and I feel like that was pretty good. I just never paid attention. And this followed me until middle school. I didn't like those rules either, especially ladies. I don't know if your school had this, but you had rules for how short your shorts could be. You had to put your hands down like this, and your shorts had to come down to here. And for your tank tops, you had to do your fingers like this, and the straps for your tank top had to look like this. And every morning before I left for school, my mom would be like, I don't know, let me see. And be like, see, Mom? I did it. And I definitely had a different outfit in my book bag. And then I would go to school and I would change. And then I would get pulled into the office and then they would give me a school shirt. And I had 20 school shirts by the end. They did not learn. I sold those also. And so I didn't like following the. I promise I'm a much better rule follower now. But it's always been in my nature to kind of question things, especially if something didn't make sense. But there's one group of people that really loved making rules in the Bible, right? You probably know them. We talk about them a lot, and Jesus sure ran into them a lot, the Pharisees. And they even made rules about rest. They made rules about rest. This entire series, we have been talking and focusing on rest. Rest being a gift, rest being something that benefits us both physically and spiritually. Rest is trusting in God's work and not our own. And last week talking about resting in God's plan during a challenge or a battle. We've been saying it over and over. Rest makes you your best. And I do feel like I've learned a lot. I have learned a lot in this series. I am definitely an on-the-go person. I am a walking Reba McEntire song. Thank you. I knew I'd get one from Bob. Bob and I were just joking about this the other day. Reba McEntire. Single mom who works 2 jobs. Don't make me sing it. Come on. No? All right, forget it. You go home, you listen to Reba McEntire. It's me. I'm the song, and I'm just always on the go and all the things. I promise I do rest. I do. There are days when I garden. I'm by my fire. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that's all I'm posting are pictures of the fire pit. I will pause. I promise I do. I follow the rule. Then why sometimes am I still a little stressed or honestly just kind of, there's not words for it some days. It's just a noise. It's just, and that's all I've got. It's just a noise. Sometimes I will be in the middle of a mundane task. I am folding laundry, I'm doing the dishes, and I have a thought, and I just go, and it happens. And either I sound really crazy right now, or you do it too, and you're just not admitting it. But sometimes I don't have words for it, and it's just a groan or a noise or what am I doing wrong? Am I not following the rules of rest and work? Is there something that I'm missing? Well, if you ask the Pharisees, they would be able to give you a list of rules pertaining to the Sabbath to make sure that you were doing it just right. Over time, these rules, they would be developed into 39 official rules about the Sabbath specifically, and those rules had their own categories within them. At the time of Jesus' ministry, these were simply spoken traditions and oral spoken traditions at the time. They were devised by rabbis and Jewish leaders who would literally sit down and discuss Mosaic law. They would debate it, and wherever they felt like there wasn't clarity, they would expand on it. They would add to it. They made all of these additional rules. By 200 and 300 AD, they got written down. All these spoken traditions got written down in something called the Mishnah, which would form the Jewish Talmud. So I spent some time this month reading the Mishnah. It was pretty cool. And I actually read through the 39 rules that would form and be part of the central text of Judaism. In all these 39 categories of work, they were so defined, and underneath those were definitions and measurements for exactly what they meant. Here are some examples. I won't read all 39, but some examples of work categories were sowing, plowing, reaping, winnowing, which I Googled, which is blowing a current of air that separates grain from chaff, that counted, sifting, kneading, baking, tying, untying, sewing, and carrying was one of them that had the subcategories and had additional definitions. So carrying items in the public domain was considered work if they had certain measurements. Well, how much is too much? Like, if I'm carrying this much, is this gonna, okay, well, good news, they wrote that down too. Here are the measurements. If you carry straw in a measure equivalent to a cow's mouthful, you're liable. If you carry ears of grain equivalent to a lamb's mouthful, liable. If you carry grass equivalent to a goat's mouthful, you're liable. Milk, if you carry enough milk that is one gulpful, liable. It says gulp. They are that specific. A gulp of milk, not allowed. Today, they have Sabbath elevators. I've not heard of this. But in Jewish community, there are Sabbath elevators that just run all day long. They will hit every floor so that you do not have to do the work of pushing the button. You have to wait a really long time for that elevator, but you do not have to work for pushing the button. And we hear these rules, and I catch myself not being too entertained by them because truly I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm also amazed at the detail, the lengths they must have gone. Can you imagine the real conversations that must have happened between these Jewish leaders? How much is too much milk? 2 gulps, 1 gulp, I don't know. And just how finite they made it when I think about it like that. And honestly, it breaks my heart a little bit. They just wanted to get it right. They just wanted to get it right. I just want to get it right. They started with good intentions, but without God at the center, it not only became meaningless, it became dangerous. Jesus confronts this mindset directly. You might be familiar with the story of the Pharisees claiming Jesus and his disciples were working on the Sabbath. Okay, it's in Matthew chapter 12. And what Jesus teaches them, or tries to teach them, they don't really listen, is that it's still something that we need to hear today. So this story starts right at the top of chapter 12 in Matthew, verse 1. We're going to read this whole section of Jesus working on the Sabbath. Let's hear that. It says, "At the time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, 'Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath.' He answered, 'Haven't you read what David did when his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for priests. Or haven't you read in the law that the priests on Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath, yet are innocent? I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words mean, 'I desire mercy, not sacrifice,' you would not have condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath." Going on from that place, he went into their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus, they asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" And he said to them, "If any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he stretched it out, and it was completely restored, just as sound as the other. But the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus. Well, first of all, it got real dark real fast, right? He healed someone's hand right in front of them. We got to figure out how to kill him. Like, God, are you seeing this? Are you not seeing it? It is clear that even if all these added rules and regulations surrounding rest were intended for good, to draw you closer to God, the rules seem to only make the Pharisees further from God. Here's what I see from the story in the hearts of the Pharisees. Jesus and his disciples, they seem to be just casually walking along. Okay, they're hungry. Okay, they're going to eat. And then just, boop, there's the Pharisees. Like, hey, I noticed you picked some grain. Why are they there? Are you following me? Yes, they probably were following Jesus and his disciples, trying to catch him in something. It says they were looking for something to bring charges on Jesus. The position of their heart is not looking to be sure the Sabbath was protected. It's not looking to be sure God is honored. And ultimately, they were so far from God that the hatred in their hearts festered and they wanted Jesus killed. On paper, they probably followed the Sabbath perfectly. They probably didn't walk around with a gulp full of anything. They did it by the letter. I'm sure they did. But the Pharisees, they messed up the most simple commandment. How can you not work all day and get the Sabbath completely wrong? In Mark's gospel retelling of the same instance, Jesus says, the Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath. They had got those reversed. How many of us think that we owe something to God today? That there's a list of what we should or shouldn't do? It's for us. Today, being right here is for us. The Pharisees managed to take something that was meant to lift a burden, and they made it heavier. A day meant to connect us with God, and yet in all the rules, they missed the Messiah entirely. It's sad. I see it all the time. There are good people who follow the rules, and they're unsatisfied. There's no rest in their souls. You and I, we have come here faithfully to church. We have heard these messages on rest. Rest makes us our best. We've been saying it. We get our schedules exactly right. We've reined it in. And we miss God entirely. Something isn't sitting right. I did the things. I make sure to take notes, and I made sure that I didn't take that extra assignment at work, and I made sure to say no to a second sports team, and I made sure to come to the class and come to the group and go to the retreats and do the things. And if that's you and you're here and you're fulfilled in everything and everything's perfect today, then I have good news. You get to rest for about 10 to 15 more minutes while I continue the sermon because you're all good and you can take a little brain break. But if you're like me, and you've done all the things, yet there are still some days, maybe not even the whole day, just a moment where you're like, I don't have any words. I just have this noise. God, It could be because humans went and messed up a good thing back then, and we're still messing it up now. We are messing up a good thing, fooling ourselves into thinking the gift of rest is simply just a physical break, and we've got our schedules figured out, so we're good to go. No. We must be in spiritual rest with our Creator. The Sabbath was made for us. God knew that we needed to set apart time with Him, weekly minimum. When we are not spending that regular time with God, hearing from Him, reading His Word, relying on only Him, if we're not doing that, He is going to become so unfamiliar in our day-to-day that our hearts can deceive us no differently than the Pharisees were deceived. A Sabbath day, resting from work without resting with God, is structure and schedule that has given you a false sense of security. The peace we have been looking for, it's in His presence. It's not just any rest. It is rest in God's presence. Rest in God's presence. What is resting in God's presence? It could be praying, reading scripture, worshiping, silence, stillness, all of those things. We've given you a version of that list all series long. I was trying to think of a simpler way to put it. Resting in God's presence. It's as simple as looking at God and allowing Him to look at you back. Allowing Him to see you. All of it. to properly sit in the presence of God, there is a vulnerability that is demanded of us. Let me take the lead in saying that rest in the presence of God and not simply just with ourselves, it's easier said than done. I know because I have a difficult time doing it. I had weeks to prepare the sermon. I changed it 5 times. I never quite felt settled. I made that random noise thing all week long. My cat started doing it back to me. You know, cats just meow to make humans happy. Just meow. What do you want? What is it? I know that being in the presence of God is the right thing. So why can I have a hard time doing it? Sin. I didn't like that answer. No, that's it. Sin, imperfection. I don't like that answer either. But it's there. It's all the ways where I'm not quite where I should be. All the ways where I know I'm not perfect, and maybe I don't want to have that conversation with you right now, God. When we hear sin, we think of all of these really grand things, and we count it out. That can't be it. You know, I conquered that a while ago. I'm not struggling with that anymore. It doesn't have to be these really grand things. You don't have to be out there robbing banks, right? Although it could be robbing banks, I guess. I've seen people do worse things. But, you know, it's just maybe more simpler than that. What has been on your mind lately? What has consumed your thoughts lately? Could you say it out loud? Could I pass the microphone around? And could you honestly say out loud the things that we've been thinking? How have you been treating your spouse lately, your partner lately, your friend lately? If I picked a random 10 minutes in your home that I said, surprise, we're going to streamcast it right now, any 10 minutes, how would that make you feel? What have you been saying about that one coworker lately? Could I put it in writing and CC your boss? Could I screenshot the For You section of Instagram? Some of you know what that is. It's that little the spyglass, and you go and you search for something. Well, when you go and you search for something, it gives you a whole feed of what it thinks you're going to want. Well, it's based on the algorithm, and that's based on the things that you tend to spend time on, and your likes are public, by the way. And so what would that look like if I screenshot and put that up there? Could we screenshot the besties chat? Could we screenshot the work group chat right now and put that on the screen? Michelle, you're sounding a little like the Pharisees. Gotta say, you're being a little picky. I know I am. No one is passing these tests. No one was passing those tests at some point, now or in the future. Your humanness is gonna mess it up. And that's when you need his presence the most. That's when you need him the most. Look at the examples that Jesus gave the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 12. David eating the consecrated bread. If you were to read the story where this comes from in 1 Samuel 21, you would read that, yes, in fact, David went to the house of God hungry and on the run from King Saul, asking the priest for some bread. And the priest told him the only bread he had was the showbread, or also known as the bread of the presence. What was that? It was 12 fresh loaves of bread that were made every week and placed on a table in the presence of God. The old loaves were then removed and eaten by the priest on behalf of the people. It was an offering once a week on, you guessed it, Sabbath. It could only be eaten by the priests. And in comes David, hungry, asking for food. And God allows David to have this bread, even though he knows it's against the rules. And if that's all there was to this story, it's already beautiful. God providing for David, showing him that his love for his people is beyond the law. But it's more than that. It's more than that. In my typical overthinking, and when I'm going and I'm finding all the verses related to the verse, and I'm reading it, I noticed in this particular story, David lied. David lies when he goes to the priest. When he goes to the priest, he says, I'm on a mission from the king. King Saul sent me here on a mission. That wasn't true. He was running from Saul. He was running for his life. I don't know why he lied. Maybe it was like an Abraham, Sarah thing. Oh, she's just my sister. I'm not sure why he felt the need to give a different story. It doesn't say. I want to research that more. But yet in his lying, he got access to the bread of the presence? I spent a full week not liking that detail. I called Eric. I was like, can you make sense of this? And he said, Michelle, you're pulling out a sweater string and the whole sweater is going to unravel. And yes, I am here with you with just a pile of string today going, but how? But how? I called my uncle, who's mega Bible nerd. And I read so many sermons on it. These two things have never been connected. And I could hear myself this week obsessing over it going, ooh, do you know who I sound like? Ooh, do you know who I sound like? Oh, he did the wrong thing. He's out there lying. David messed up. Oh, that's not a good example. Jesus, why did you use that one? What other examples does Jesus give us? Jesus also tells the Pharisees, haven't you read in the law that the priests on the Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath and yet are innocent? The other example is that priests work on the Sabbath. Why do they work? Well, they have to because people sin, and you had to offer sacrifices for your sin. There were offerings to make daily. So the priests themselves, ironically, they had to work on the Sabbath. Why did God allow that kind of work on the Sabbath? Because it was the work of his atonement. It was the miracle work of his presence in the midst of their sin. And then the ultimate example, Jesus in real time, healing the man's hand. The man's hand having affliction shows the brokenness and the sinfulness of this world. Not necessarily his personal sin. We don't know anything about that man. But it just shows, oh man, you can do everything right maybe. And this world is just full of sickness and disease. This is the place we are in. And yet Jesus is in this world with us. There is the presence of God amongst this imperfect man. You know, maybe it's a coincidence, but I don't think so. That all three of these examples in Matthew 12 have humans with imperfections where sin has impacted their lives. David would lie, but God would demonstrate his presence in the bread anyway. The priest would break the Sabbath because of the people's need for a sin offering, but God's atonement would be present every time. A man stricken with physical representation of sin in the world would meet Jesus and be fully healed. And maybe it's a coincidence, but I don't think so, that there are 39 categories of work in the Mishnah. The actual text, as I was reading it, says 40 less one. That's the phrase, how they didn't just say 39. They said 40 less one. 40 less one. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, that's how Paul words the number of lashes that Jesus took. 39 lashes. And it was always 39 lashes in the punishment demanded in the law because it said no more than 40. And they were worried of the human error of accidentally going over 40, so they would always make it less one. The story didn't go, David lied, so God provided him nothing. And the story didn't go, the people sinned, but it was on a Sabbath, so everyone missed a day of forgiveness. And the story didn't go, the man's hand is shriveled, but God made him wait a day. And your story doesn't go, I sinned, so I can't meet with God anymore. If you feel uneasy or unrested, like you can't go before the presence of God because something is not right in your life, that is the exact time. That is the exact moment to take it to God and to rest in his presence and to let him see you. Some of us got to go to the Torrin Wells concert this week, and oh boy, I needed it. So I'm going to steal this right from what he said on stage. The question is not whether God is present, it's are we. He is waiting for us to show up. He's been here the whole time. Something greater than the temple is here. And just like Jesus demonstrated in the field in real time, that he is here with us in our brokenness and in our imperfection. If you have been a little off lately, I have good news. Today is the Sabbath. Today is the Sabbath. We get to rest in his presence, and it is for you today. Take advantage of that. If we have been focused on the wrong things, we have a moment today. As we close in worship, I want you to sit in the presence of God And I want you to let him see you. I know that can be difficult in the crowd. So we're going to try it. As you're worshiping, let him see all of you. But later, when you go home, I need you to apply this today. Some of your Sabbath is already over. You've got until midnight. And I want you to find time before God. I don't care if it's in your car. I don't care if it's at home. If you need to tell your roommate or a spouse, hey, I need 5 minutes. Oh, but they're going to think I sinned. We all did. Oh no, are they going to think that you are humbling yourself before the God of the universe? How wonderful. What a gift. Do that today. Spend just a few minutes in his presence and let him see you. So we'll close in worship and we're going to do exactly what we are designed to do this morning. And it is to rest knowing that the God of the universe, he sees you back and he's not going anywhere. He's just so excited you finally showed up. He's so excited to sit with you this morning. There is nothing that could have been on your mind or what you've done that would make him not want to show up. He is always there. So let's just rest in his presence this morning as we worship, and let's pray, church. Lord God, I thank you for your Sabbath. You are Lord of this day, and it is a gift to us. We are sorry for all of the times we've misused it. God, I'm sorry for all of the times I made this day about me. God, I thank you that you knew it. You knew we would do it. You knew we would mess it up, and you had a plan. You had a plan, God, a built-in day that we could rest before you. God, you had a plan of your son, Jesus, on the cross, that as we are imperfect, God, that you made a way for us to come before you, to connect with God, us, and to forgive us. We thank you for it. It's in your son's name. Amen.